What's up, everyone? Thank you for checking out and supporting this episode of Raised a Geek. This week, we catch up on the Creature Commandos finale and look back at the first season to share our thoughts on the first chapter of the DCU. Was it a good start or a worrying debut of this new movie universe, cinematic universe, comic universe? I don't even know what it is. Let's find out. This week, I'm here with my buddy Don. How we doing, man?
Chris, what is up today, my friend? Everything is all right. Cannot complain too much on this weekend of relaxation and sports and things and everything going on in the early 2025 weekend.
January weekend where it's kind of cold outside, kind of sunny. You get deceived, then you're cold. I'm sitting here with a heater on because I'm in Texas and have thin blood.
Yeah. And meanwhile, here we get like a surprise snow. I didn't know it was going to snow. And I look out the window today and there's just snow everywhere. Like, oh, okay. That's fun. Bundle up. That's all right.
Yep. Yeah, bundling up, but getting 22-25 rolling. Wild card weekend, watching some football.
Yeah.
Watching some movies.
What's funny about movies is we just did our last week. We did our episode on our best of 2024.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys didn't hear that, I go back and listen to it where we counted down our top movies of the year. But like not my complaint, but like my concern before we did that was I'm looking through all the movies that I haven't seen or the movies that I have seen throughout 2024. Like, of course, I watched some from previous years, like old favorites. I saw those. But like new movies, I was like, man, and I really did my list. And I was like, I literally have about 10 movies to pick from, which it's like, wow, I just didn't do movies the same this year.
Right.
And then you were talking to me about Letterboxd and how you keep track of stuff on that app. So I was like, let me start one for this year. So far already in this year, what is it right now? January 12th.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've seen 4 movies already. And that's like almost half of what I saw last year. And we're on the 12th day of January.
Yeah.
Like, is this going to be my year for movies or did I just have like a hot start? Because like, it's all like Nosferatu and Conclave and what was the other one?
Sonic.
I saw Sonic yesterday, but there's one more in there, like a 20. Something. It might have been something on my list. I don't know, but I've seen 4,
Letterboxd.
right? I've already seen 4 movies this year, which is like crazy to me.
You've been to the movies twice. That's almost probably more than you went last year.
I know, all right. And it wasn't just Marvel movies this time; it's other things.
This year, last year was a slow year for movies, and with the strike the year before really made last year kind of lackluster. As I'm sitting here looking at the movies that are up for awards and everything, like nothing really has me excited. I felt like the year before there was a lot of movies that I wanted to watch and I did watch. And this year, even the ones that they're naming, I'm just like, meh. Like I still don't hear any like glowing reviews about things. And I mean, it just seems like at this point, they're just steamrolling ahead with The Brutalist and being like, all right, well, this is going to win all of our awards. It's a 4-hour brutal movie of just I don't even know,
Depression.
The American Dream, yeah, and the Depression. Immigrants, I don't really know. Not saying it's not good, but it still just doesn't look like anything I'm going to watch.
I heard whatever, speculation for the best actor is like basically down to him, Adrian Brody, and Timothy Chalamet. And I know, obviously, I think the Chalamet thing is for the Bob Dylan movie, but I was like, it should be Dune. It should be for her. Yeah. It should be for his Dune character, but it won't be. It'll be for Bob Dylan. They love biopics.
They do. It's wild that it's like, it seems like you do a biopic, then you're nominated for an Oscar. And like, why? I mean, it's just, and I think so much of it is cheap just because they're like, well, they did a great impression of that person. And you're like, well, anybody could do an impression. I mean, you just sent that Instagram reel, that dude being Jason Statham. So make him to go do a Jason Statham biopic and get him an Oscar. You know, like, what are we doing here? You know, like Dune, that was a loved story that was brought to life in a way that nobody ever imagined that they would do. And he owned that role of being like so many. And I just like, I can't imagine him being Bob Dylan being better than that.
Right. But yeah, like we just said, it's this trend. It's this trend of biopics being the hot.
It's always, I mean, everybody who's done a biopic pretty much wins their Oscar.
Yeah.
Jamie Foxx won one for being Ray Charles.
Yeah.
Will Smith was the only one. He didn't win his Muhammad Ali one,
Yeah, but he was nominated.
but he
Like
was nominated, so he was still right there.
you're at least gonna
Rami
get a
Malek won for Queen.
yeah. The guy who played Elvis, Austin Butler,
Yeah, Joaquin
I mean,
Phoenix.
yeah. It's just like a thing. When you see the biopic coming, you're like, oh, that's a nomination because they love it.
And what's wild is that, and this is a weird sidebar that we didn't necessarily anticipate, but what's weird is that they still make um, biopics after Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story with
Yeah.
John C. Riley. I literally just watched that movie this week, or like
Yeah.
last weekend. I put it on while I was doing some stuff. That movie is amazing. I love that movie, and it was such a perfect mockery of like biopics and what they are and the way that they tell those stories, that it's amazing that they ever kept making them after that. Like you'd almost be like, how do I still make a biopic now post Walk Hard and be
Like
compelling?
Walking Hard was just like laughing in the faces, like making fun of them right to their face, like biopics.
Yeah, we're gonna make this movie as
Yeah.
ridiculous as possible, but still as just follow the exact same template that you guys do for these movies,
Yeah.
right in your face. And then they do another one like with Weird Al, and Daniel Radcliffe doesn't get nominated, and he should have, because that movie was ridiculous and like amazing in so many ways. Did you ever watch the Weird Al biopic?
No, no, but I know I am aware of it. Who was it? Darren, you said Daniel Radcliffe?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the way that they did a parody of biopics as a biopic, just like Weird Al parodies music, was genius. And like I can see why they like how they did that, and the fact that that movie just got shoved on the Roku channel
Yeah.
and never really got its fair share is a crime. That movie was hilarious. Movie was
Yeah.
hilarious.
I actually forgot about that. There's another one in theaters right now, which is kind of getting good reviews because it might be making fun of biopics in a way because it's that Robbie Williams
Yeah.
who was like not in my wheelhouse. I know he's like a more of a international superstar, and I don't know if he ever got that big in America. Maybe he did. I could be wrong.
I know the name, but I couldn't point. You couldn't give me a lineup, and I don't know if I could point him out.
But it's like a CGI monkey as him. Like
Yeah.
it looks like Planet of the Apes style CGI, and it's just that is his character playing him through the whole thing. And people are like, "This is amazing. This is brilliant. It's one of the greatest movies I've seen in the past year." Like, really?
But why?
I don't know. I don't
And that's what
understand.
I kept seeing, like pictures of it. I've never taken the time to watch a trailer,
Yeah.
so shame on me. But yeah, I'm like, why did they do that? And even when I was reading like the description, because I was looking at what movies were in theaters this weekend,
Yeah.
and they're just like they don't even mention the monkey. So I mean, theoretically, I could look, see the poster, which didn't have a monkey on it on the app, read that description, like, oh, I like Robbie Williams. Let me go see this movie. And there is an actual potential that I could go see that movie expecting a Robbie Williams biopic and not be expecting a monkey.
Right. It hasn't been fully explained to the public why this is how they made that movie. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. That's weird. That's weird. But 2025 is going to be a weird, kind of hopefully great return to form for the box office and for movies. Hopefully we'll be able to get to more, and obviously 2025 most anticipated movie of the year has to be Superman
I think so. For us, anyway.
for us, but I mean, I feel like
Probably for
that
Mark.
they dropped that trailer and it broke all trailer records. It's
Well,
been viewed and already parodied and already like remade a million different ways. Um, It's
yeah.
it became a cultural moment, and we haven't really had a chance to talk about that Superman trailer that I was genuinely nervous about that trailer being dropped, and you sent it to me 8 a.m. that morning, and I was like, "Uh-oh, I'm so nervous. I'm so
Then-
nervous." I spent the night before watching like the Man of Steel trailer #1. I was like, "Can it be this good? Can it be
Mm.
this good?" And I'm watching like Superman Returns trailers. Like I went all the way back. Um, I was amped. I was amped. But man, that trailer, I think I watched it 4 times, just like back to back to back.
Yeah.
And that trailer was outstanding.
Well, it did what a trailer's supposed to do. Like,
For a teaser, it wasn't even a trailer.
right. A 2-minute little teaser. There's probably will be a longer one at some point, but Yeah, man. I mean, it kind of hits you with all the anticipation stuff you were hoping. It also kind of alleviated a little bit of worry, I think.
You know,
And being worried about that movie isn't just like, it's not personal to anybody. It's just scary to think of a new Superman thing because we've been let down a few times. Like every now and then something will come out that is pleasing, but you and I both have always like just want a good Superman movie and a Superman franchise to be good. And just from the looks of this trailer, it looks like, yeah, they kind of know what they're going for. They chose their direction. They're doing things a little differently than what we're used to for the past few years.
yeah,
It's got the nice bright colors and the action sequences and um, Superman like saving children from disasters and fighting monsters in the sky and plenty of Lois Lane and Lex Luthor and everybody that you would expect to see and just like this brightly colored world. They did a electric guitar sounding take on the old theme that we're all used to,
right.
which kind of hits you in the feels, but like just a little taste enough to get you going. Showed you some of the supporting cast that you're going to see, like Green Lantern and Hawk Girl, and um, a bunch of different characters that we're scared this
Lex.
movie. Yeah, Lex. We're scared this movie is like too jammed, but if they walk this line the right way, maybe it'll work. So I don't know. To me, it just kind of uh, gave me a lot of hope and anticipation. Hope, imagine that for Superman. Gave me a lot of hope that this movie could be what it should be.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, Superman's been maybe making Superman movies since the 70s, but if you count them all out and really lay them all out, there's been a lot more misses than hits.
You know,
And definitely a lot more recently once they moved on from like Christopher Reeves, which even all his weren't hits. Um, but he still like was the torchbearer or the standard. And I mean, to a lot of people, he still is the standard of that you just can't. He was the first, at least mainstream. I know they had other ones, George Miller or whatnot back in the day and the Serial and whatnot. But you just kind of have a lot of anticipation and hope, like you just said. It's a good choice of words, I guess. So you didn't really know, and yeah, I'm excited the fact that this clearly isn't a origin, that
yes.
Superman is established, and they're showing that. And this is a fresh world, and it is a bigger world that has a lot more going on in it already popping in. So it's kind of encouraging to see a lot of the stuff that we saw in that. And yeah, there's still a chance that it's going to end up being cram packed, but it is James Gunn, and James Gunn has made all of his superhero movies have been cram packed, and they've all been with teams. If you
Mhm.
look at the Guardians of the Galaxy, the Suicide Squad, and as we're about to talk about or segue into, the Creature Commandos are all big teams with a lot of big characters that could easily feel overstuffed, and none of them do. Peacemaker that has a lot going on, and he does find that balance. So if anyone's going to be able to find a balance in Superman, I think it probably is going to be him.
Yeah, I think that's probably very true. He's proven that he can handle like multitasking in a script and probably keeps in mind while he's doing something like I want to include this person, this person, this person, but I'm still going to keep this focus where it needs to be and give this person enough time and that enough time and not make it feel too cramped. That is how I always felt during watching every Guardians of the Galaxy movie, which I'm a fan of all three of them.
Yeah.
A fan of Peacemaker and Suicide Squad was okay, like not terrible, not my favorite, but
It's
not terrible.
watchable.
Yeah,
I
so
was
all
I laughed at parts. I enjoyed myself. Have I felt the itch to go back and watch it like I have his previous things? No, but
yeah, yeah. It's so yeah. I mean, we'll see how it goes, but very encouraging.
now as we talk about and we're really not going to be able to talk about Creature Commandos without talking about it. And if you go back and listen to our first initial reactions to the first two episodes, we talked about this. And obviously, coming out of the Superman trailer and what I'm about to say, this all ties together. But Creature Commandos being this is the DCU. This is now first chapter we've now is in the books. We've already watched the first thing that James Gunn is offering up for this universe outside of it, if you rule out his Suicide Squad and Peacemaker stuff that was before. Once again, super confusing, and I'm about to confuse it up a little bit more because we haven't had a chance to talk about this at all. But Jason
Okay.
Momoa is Lobo.
Oh, I forgot. I forgot about that.
Yeah, it kinda came out as news, and I shook my head and said, "Okay." And once again, it just comes back to the confusion of what this universe is, where
Yeah,
because now we have Peacemaker, who was part of that DCEU,
yeah,
coming into the DCU, but not supposed to know anything about the DCEU because technically wouldn't Peacemaker be able to be like, "Hey, you look like Aquaman."
yeah. You
And I
also
know actors are different. It's not gonna be like you're Jason Momoa, but
Jason and his Aquaman also appeared in the last episode of Aquaman.
right.
So I looked at you, I talked to you.
Yeah, I was about to say, and he was the one they were able to get that actually like delivered lines.
Yeah, him and Ezra Miller were both in the finale of Peacemaker. But yeah, I don't know. At first, when I saw the news, I was like, and I sent it to you, and you said exactly what I was thinking. Like, I can't believe they did that. Just like, it seems not, I'm not going to say cheap, but it's like in a world full of actors, like, I get it. He looks a lot like Lobo, and he always has. Like, that's what people have always said. And I get it, but like he seems like a natural choice, but he's already played Aquaman in a universe you're trying to differentiate between the Snyderverse and James Gunn's world. So now you're like going back and picking him to come over as a new role. But like, I don't want Henry Cavill. I don't want Gail Godot. I don't want Ben Affleck. But we're gonna. I don't know. It's something about it is strange. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, you know what? Who cares? Like, I'm okay with it. If he wants to say F you and use somebody from the Snyderverse as a different character because he wants Jason Momoa to be his Lobo, then be Lobo. Momoa's talked for years about that's a character he would have loved to play. Um, I think it's more an indictment on the old regime, like the Snyder and old WB
Yeah.
universe of looking at that man and being like, that should be Lobo, not Aquaman.
Yeah. But saying we need an Aquaman and we need to make Aquaman cool, so we're gonna find the coolest dude we can.
Exactly. So that's what they kind of did. So it's more a thing saying like he should have never been Aquaman and just been Lobo.
Yeah.
They were ever going to do Lobo. So it is a little weird that his first appearance is going to be in Supergirl, especially since they're like adapting that movie from the Tom King comic, and Lobo has nothing to do with that. I don't know what Lobo is going to have to do with Supergirl, but I guess time will tell on that one. But yeah, kind of weird, but I'm cool with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. I yeah, whatever. I don't care. What I mean, my concern would just be the fact of like, is that gonna be confusing to general audiences?
Mhm.
Like, you show him in the trailers? How do you unveil him to the
Layman.
regular person, the regular viewer, without confusing them?
Yeah.
I just don't know how that works. Now it depends on what he looks like, depends on I mean, there's all kinds of different variations that can go into that. I mean, hell, what if they decide, "Hey, Lobo's gonna be completely CGI?"
Sure.
And, like, we're just gonna have Jason Momoa as being him, but there's gonna be layers of CGI on top of him, and he's unrecognizable in a way. Granted, that would be stupid, but still.
I'm sure the first time the general public sees the Lobo character and you can tell it's Jason Momoa, there is gonna be people out there be like, "What happened to Aquaman? What did I miss?
Yeah.
That happened to Aquaman? Why is
Yeah,
he
why did Aquaman get mean? Or why did Aquaman get this? Or when did
why are
Aquaman do that?
why are his eyes red? Why does he have gray skin?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I can yeah, it will. So it's a risk that I don't know if I would necessarily wanna take, but I also don't know what they're doing. So, I don't
Yeah.
know how important Lobo is to their story. I don't know, you know, what it is, what it means. It could just be a passing cameo in the movie.
What's promising about it is we've always complained for years about Superman movies of him not having opponents to fight that are his strength.
Right.
That's been through a few different Superman movies, like Superman Returns. Like, he didn't fight anybody because I didn't include anybody in that movie for him to fight.
Right.
And like, you like to have someone who can match Superman in a fist fight. That's why we like the Kryptonian fights in Man of Steel and General Zod. That's what made that movie cool. Is like, I want to see Superman mixing it up with people, not just like I have to outthink Lex Luthor in this. You know what I mean? Like, I want to see him punch people and then punch him back. And Lobo is a character who can do that and has done that. So.
That's what I found so wild about Man of Steel, and the criticism that everybody had out of that movie was the destruction. And I was just like, I remember sitting there in Man of Steel watching that going, this is what I've always wanted.
Right.
And yes, if you sit back and think about how many people probably die, like if you really sit back and think about that level of destruction that they put upon Metropolis while they were fighting and knocking down buildings, yeah, it's wild to think about. But this is also two aliens who came down. If there were two aliens that came down right now and started fighting, and even if they had Superman's morals,
Mhm.
do you think that a city wouldn't be destroyed if they decided to fight in downtown Chicago?
Oh, that'd be the end of it.
That city would be flattened.
Right.
And even if you have one who's like, I want to preserve human life, they're still getting their ass beat. It's like you get thrown through a building, you can't just stop.
Flying through the John Hancock building because you can't because you gotta fight.
Yeah, like it's wild to I was always kind of like I understand it. And I was always kind of thought it was cool that they did tie that back into like Batman Superman or the opening of that and having that be Batman. Like the fact that they still like what leaned into that, whether or not that was planned or whether or not that just was kind of like a rebuttal to the hate that Man of Steel got. But I always just thought that was a weird criticism of Man of Steel. Like the destruction was too much. You're like, what are you talking about? This is what we've been complaining about for years. We want to see Superman get punched in the face.
Right. Go read a comic book. That's what happens.
Yeah,
In
what
the
happens when Superman gets punched in the face? He goes through a building. That's like canon.
and all the same destruction happened in every Avengers movie.
I
So
know.
like what are you what are you crying about? These are superhero films.
And then they went and did almost the same thing where they had to almost talk about it because people were complaining about the level of destruction on the heroes, and you're just like, I mean, I get it. I get it that it's upsetting that there's that much destruction, but it would be an upsetting scenario if aliens came down and started destroying things. That would
Yeah.
be upsetting. Like
It would be on the news for
it
a
would be
month.
on the news and it would be horrible and we would like mourn those days
Yeah.
every year. Like
Day, as they would call it or something like they
yeah,
do.
like it's a wild um
Yeah. It's a wild
it was just a wild criticism that they kept leaning into, and I don't know if James Gunn's gonna like how do you do a Superman movie without destruction? But
well, we've already seen a giant kaiju in the trailer, so I'm sure there's gonna be plenty of destruction in his Superman movie.
yeah, I mean his Suicide Squad movie had a giant starfish tramping down buildings. Granted, I think that was like in a like
Well,
Chernobyl
like,
area or something.
all killing people and stepping all over people, so yeah, there's gonna be destruction. Get
Yeah,
ready.
yeah. Well, okay. I sidebarred us way too much. Way
No,
too much. Let's
we're
talk about
big.
Creature Commandos. Let's get
Yeah.
into this. If you have any thoughts on our conversation as we're segueing into, I guess this whole conversation is just about to be DCU, because I'm sure we're going to go back and forth with that. But if you have any thoughts about Superman trailer, Jason Momoa and Lobo, Superman knocking down buildings, you know how to do that. You hit us up on social media over at Raised Geek on all social media platforms. We are there. You can also shoot us an email at raisedthegeek@gmail.com for share your thoughts and join the conversation. We're always looking for ratings and reviews as well on your podcast service. So hit us up where you can.
Subscribe, boys and girls. Hit that
Subscribe. Subscribe. So, Creature Commandos, for those who may not know or forgot, or we need to do this kind of segue, Creatures Commandos is an animated series on Max, kicking off James Gunn's DC universe, which we just got done talking about. It follows a ragtag team of monstrous anti-heroes, my favorite thing, sarcastic, including a werewolf, Frankenstein's monster, and a Gargon, working together on covert missions for the U.S. government. Packed with action, humor, and dark intrigue, the show blends classic horror with superhero storytelling, setting the stage for DCU's bold new chapter.
There it is. Creature.
And I think we kind of binged most of this show. We watched the first two episodes, and I don't think we came back to it until this week.
I think I let a few build up. I think I so 3, 4, 5, 6. I watched all kind of consecutively before the finale came out, and then I just watched that last night. So yeah, I let them build a little bit. Nice little 23-minute episodes, 25-minute episodes to get through real quick. So yeah.
Yeah, I watched them all on Friday. I sat
Right?
there for 2 hours and watched them.
Quick watches, right? Like
Yeah, I can't say that I'm mad at the 20-minute episode structure. I think I've said more than enough times on here. That's my jam. That's my sweet spot.
So, what did you think of the season?
I enjoyed Creature Commandos more
Mhm.
than I thought I would. Um, there's some things that I do like and things that I don't like, but I had fun with every episode. I thought every episode had strengths, had
Mhm.
something that is there. It was a bold choice for this to be the first chapter. It's once again, which we've talked about already and we've talked about over and over again. To me, it still feels somewhat confusing and convoluted, and maybe I'm just being difficult. But like I said, it's kind of like the Suicide Squad again, which you already, this is the same Suicide Squad that was your movie. And now you're doing Creature Commandos, which is monsters, but it's still the Suicide Squad.
Right.
Just a lot of overlap that I don't necessarily know why this was chosen outside of just James Gunn wanting to do this. Like
Mhm.
just loving this style of like ragtag groups of misfits and wanting to like do Suicide Squad again, but with monsters. And there was a large part of me watching this that I thought this could be really cool if it was a live action show. But all in all, if we take the whole series or the whole season, I enjoyed my time. I did sit there and watch it rather easily. It wasn't a chore to get through. I enjoyed each episode. And I'm looking forward to talking about it with you. What do you think?
Very good. Yeah, I liked it too. I thought it was, pretty enjoyable, and when I didn't always know if I was gonna think that, but I did. I thought it like we talked about, James Gunn's strength is having a large ensemble and being able to focus enough on each one where you feel like they get enough focus, but you don't lose focus on the other
Right.
character. It's not too crammed, even though you have a lot of people. Um, I thought the same thing about he's just in his wheelhouse for some reason. Ever since Guardians of the Galaxy 1, he just loves this kind of formula. He loves a team of ragtag people that the general audience doesn't know, and he wants to introduce you to them.
Yeah.
He wants to be like, I love these characters. These characters don't get enough uh, love in the general perspective. So I'm gonna make a project about them and introduce you to them, and you're gonna like this because I know what I'm doing. I kind of feel like that's what he did with all the Guardians movies. Now Star Lord and the Rocket Raccoon and Groot are household names, and then he went and did a better Suicide Squad than the one they already had. My thing now is like, I almost wish the same as you that Creature Commandos would have been his movie that he made instead of Suicide Squad. Like, because it's the same formula, it's the same idea. But instead of giving us another Suicide Squad movie, which I'm sure the studio was in favor of that, they wanted more Harley Quinn, they wanted more uh, whatever of that. But like Creature Commandos is Suicide Squad. Just to be honest, like just like you said, but with using monsters, C-list characters from the DC that we
Yeah.
never Frankenstein, the Bride of Frankenstein. He even brought in people from the same from Suicide Squad to be in this. Like Weasel was in the movie, uh, Amanda Waller, her
Economos from Peacemaker.
yeah, that guy was all over this show. So, but beyond all that, I liked this show. I thought the action was cool, like almost certain times reaching like invincible levels of adult rated mature action that just kind of made you go, oh, like they're doing that, but it's animation, so it's like you can do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
Um,
Dr. Phosphorus had some of those moments.
Oh my gosh. We had like the middle fingers up and just went through people's faces with them.
Yeah.
Just oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was cool, but like, yeah, I liked all the characters for the most part and had some fun with it. It was like a nice little contained story, 7 quick episodes, kind of got through it. But yeah, for the most part, I did have some issues here and there, but I enjoyed it for the most part. Now, whether it should be the starting point for DCU is a different conversation that we can touch on. But yeah, for the most part, I thought it was enjoyable.
Yeah, no, and I think to kind of bridge the two conversations that we've already had together, like we are talking about the Superman trailer. Now, these are the same world. This is the same universe. Like they are aware of who Superman is, like all of the Creature Commandos. Clearly, there was a Batman cameo in this one as well. We had characters from Gotham City. We had characters from Star City. We had, like moments that transcended just this like little bucket of the world. You know, this wasn't a self-contained story. It did jump kind of all around this new DCU in animated form, but like it's wild to think that the insanity that was in this movie is also the same place Superman is.
Sure.
Like the tone still seems so much different that it's wild that it's just like so Superman is just kind of okay with. And I guess I'm walking around and twisting myself in circles of it because technically, I guess Amanda Waller was still doing Suicide Squad stuff with Henry Cavill's Superman just there, and they were still doing those things. But it's just kind of wild to think about.
Well, it's just like Gunn needs to get this R-rated stuff out of his system, I think.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm running this Superman movie. I'm the head of DC and I'm gonna be making a lot of family-friendly movies, but I still got a lot of R-rated stuff in me that I want to put somewhere. I have to put it somewhere. This has got to be my first thing where in in Superman, they're not going to be dropping F bombs and stabbing people and blood spurting everywhere. Like that's not going to be in Superman. That's not going to be in Supergirl. Like, but he's just like, I still have this itch. Like I gotta make this.
We're sitting here in July. We're sitting here like July 1st, and we're like, oh, Superman comes out in 3 weeks. I want to prepare. So let me watch. I'm gonna watch the Suicide Squad because I know those characters are in the same universe. Okay, I watched Suicide Squad. That's a hell of a ride. All right, let me watch Peacemaker. All right, that's a hell of a ride. Okay, I'm gonna watch Creature Commandos before the week before Superman comes out. All right, and then I'm gonna watch Superman, and it's gonna be like that tone. That's not the same tone. Like, is it
What
gonna fit into this same kind of like world? I mean, obviously we don't know, but I mean, all MCU projects have that MCU feel.
until they got to Deadpool Wolverine.
And
Until they got to Deadpool Wolverine, which
yeah, but
then
that still had a Marvel touch to it. I mean, yes, they did the R-rated, but
right,
it still felt like
it could exist. But then the real question is going to be what happens when you include Deadpool in a Avengers movie? Is he going to be acting the same? Is he going to be dropping F bombs? Is he going to be shooting people with blood spurting everywhere? Like, so it gets hard. It becomes like this. What's the line that you walk? Like, are you going to make it adapt it more to Deadpool, or are you going to adapt Deadpool more to the Avengers? Are you going to adapt Superman to, is Superman going to watch, the Bride of Frankenstein rip somebody's spine out in something, or is like she not going to do that if she becomes live action in something?
right.
Uh, so I don't know.
I know. I know we're just being nerds right now, so I mean that's fine.
Well,
Uh,
that's what we're here to do.
I know, but it's just one of those weird things that if you want to have this like cohesive single universe, then these are things that you have to think about. Is like, what's the vibe of this overall universe I want to paint? And right now, the universe that he's painting, that his Superman's going to go into, is R-rated, chaos, dark humor, adult. That's the universe he built for his Superman right now, and it's just kind of like, what the hell is this Superman movie going to be? And I mean, based on that trailer, it does not look like any of those things.
No, it is going to have a different tone, I think, and
Yeah,
it's
it has to.
they're just gonna make you believe like this is what's happening in Metropolis. The dark, dirty underworld you saw in Creature Commandos is happening over here. And at some point they may come together and we'll let them
And
blend.
and
Yeah.
it's comic books, and all those comic books exist in the same thing too. There is Suicide Squad comic books that are in the same world and universe as all these other things, and they leave each other alone. And it's just not. It's its own thing. So once again,
Now
nerd, but
when you get to Batman, that's gonna be a different story. Like the Batman lines still aren't clear. What you mentioned, Batman appears in this because Dr. Appears to be a villain who is operating out of Gotham City, and Batman was the one who put him away finally. But like, you even had Clayface in this show, which I thought was cool when that
yeah,
happened. Oh, it's cool to see Clayface,
yeah.
and but he was like, you know, fucking up Rick Flag, like
Oh
really
yeah, he banged him, man.
being super violent and almost killed him and put him in a coma. I was like, all right, we could have the feel of Batman can stay violent. You know what I mean? Batman deals with murderers and killers and stuff. Superman, not so much. So, yeah, we'll kind of see how that
I know.
goes.
And this just ultimately becomes the problem and what I've kind of was hoping that they wouldn't try to do a universe. Like, I
Yeah.
wish they would just make movies and not try to tie them together. I wish they could just let go of this dream. And I mean, if you make a bunch of successful things that stand alone, then make a movie where you bring them together. But like, don't just tell us straight up like these are all in the same world. They're
Right.
gonna connect, and it's just like it's just why put that? Why not just be like, hey, we're making a Superman movie?
Superman's gonna have to deal with Frankenstein at some point,
Some
guys.
point, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Um, like I said, it's just one of those things that's just weird. It's just a weird thing, and I just really wish they would just make Batman movies and not have to worry about it. Now they're getting a new now they're looking for a new director for Brave and the Bold.
Yeah, and I mean, the rumors of that being kind of put off to the back for a little while
Mhm.
are going on, and the rumors will not die still yet of Pattinson's Batman being the DCU Batman. Like, that still has not been said. No, 100% no.
Yeah,
Like, they've been like, "We don't want to," but then you still hear things like, "Ah, they might want to," because money talks and success talks, and they know that world is already super successful, so it's like, "Hmm, I don't know, David Corn's set and Robert Pattinson look around the same age, and I can imagine them on the screen together at some point." Uh,
yeah.
so you never know. You never know what's gonna happen. Like, one day we'll wake up to a entertainment news alert that says Brave and the Bold scrapped. Batman 2 is your next DCU movie. Um,
Or Robert Pattinson cast in Brave and the Bold.
right. So you know, uh,
Yeah.
guess we're all just
Yeah.
hanging to see what's gonna happen.
I know. It's kind of exciting. But Creature Commandos. I really did like the structure of this show. I like the each episode basically being the backstory for each one of these characters. I thought that worked out really well. And each one was a compelling kind of story. The only one that really I didn't need was Frankenstein's. Um his was
Oh,
fine where he was running around with the gypsy woman.
yeah.
I thought that one delivered the
Least.
least. I mean, I felt like most of his I mean, it's Frankenstein, so I mean, he's just everyone knows Frankenstein's story, and he was part of the brides in episode 2. So I mean, like, I felt like I got enough, and I don't really think I got anything extra out of that episode that I almost didn't need more David Harbour being Frankenstein. That
I can almost agree with that. They could have done. He already kind of had his moment in the Brides episode.
Mhm.
So I think the one person they didn't do one for was Rick Flag
Right.
Senior, and I feel like I could have done with a little backstory on him, how he got to where he is. They could have involved his son, Rick Flag Jr.,
Yeah, I got
which
Joel Kinnaman to do some voicing and
yeah, exactly. They could have done something with him. Maybe that's next season because this show has been greenlit for a
oh,
second season.
has it?
Yeah. I kind of felt the same you felt about Frankenstein with Nina's a little bit, the last episode. Uh, just because, I mean, we're doing spoilers for Creature Commandos now, I
Yeah.
guess. So if you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's on Max and they're short and you can watch them.
You've been safe until now. Now it's over.
Yeah. Um, but like Nina, the character Nina, who's like the fish woman in this,
Yeah.
she never did anything. She didn't have any powers or anything. She was just a woman who could like breathe underwater and she looks like a fish and looks like a
I don't
mermaid.
I don't even know why she was there.
Either. I don't either. And then they use her as like she's good the whole time. She's the kind one. She's the nice one. She doesn't want to hurt anybody. And then once she finally decides she wants to and hesitates in the final episode, she gets killed in like a brutal way, gets stabbed by this princess. And like her backstory to me was just kind of like, all right. Everybody else kind of like was very uh heartstrings tugging and heartbreaking, like Weasel's backstory, like, oh my God, that one almost broke me.
Yeah.
And Dr. Phosphorus too, in the same way, just like uh every character in the show has a very tragic thing going on, and Nina did too, but hers was just like, but you're not doing anything. You know
But
what I
like
mean?
Nina, I don't know. I thought it was weird that even the situation surrounding her death even happened because she was a fish. So realistically, like, just drag that girl underwater
Right.
and hold on to her. Like, you don't even need a knife. Like, you should have just drowned her and then made it look like an accident. Like, why would they even want it to look like a murder? They could just she's swimming in the lake, you just drag her down. She puffs up when she's done. and all the guards think she accidentally drowned, and you sneak away, and no one even knows, and now you're not starting an international incident.
Right, right, and the bride being like, "You have to be the one who has to do it, Nina." "No, she doesn't. Just shoot her in the head. You guys are right over here in the bushes."
Right.
You're
Yeah, it's just yeah, it was definitely it didn't work for me in that I was shocked, I guess, that she got killed, but then at the same time, yeah, I was just like, okay, that sucks. And
Yeah.
I can understand, that that's a turning point for the bride and
Mhm.
of like how she feels because that was important to her and kind of led into the end a little bit, which I'm still confused on, which I was going to ask you about. But yeah, I'm curious, and we're doing full spoilers, and let's go here. The whole series, the whole season was basically back and forth on whether or not that princess was bad.
Right.
So it was, hey, she's banging Rick Flag. The Wonder Woman girl lady from Thea Mascara was,
Or whatever.
yeah, what'd you say?
Cersei, I think.
Yeah, Cersei. She was like, oh, I know that she's, this princess is going to start World War III.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to kill her. And then she's is she telling the truth or not? And Rick Flag's like, no, no, I'm gonna believe my booty call. She couldn't do this. They're going back and forth on whether or not this princess needs to be assassinated. And then you're just kind of like, okay. And then they kind of goes all the way to the end where then they're like, the final thing is they're like, hey, we messed up. She's innocent. Don't do it.
Mm.
And then the bride is like, hey, yeah, I saw you with Clayface. You're guilty. Do it. How did she realize? How did she put any of that together? Like,
Yeah.
was the prince like I literally ended watching and I have no idea if the princess was guilty or not.
She was, because obviously they just made it so you could tell she was guilty because she, like, looked like she got caught, so it's like, "Oh, yeah, she must be." But how the I put it all together is a little kinda just seems like rushed and just, making a lot of assumptions. The 2 things she had going was that she saw Clayface in the surveillance, and then earlier in the season, she did notice one of the princess's guards, like the guy with the blonde hair, like, sitting around in that baseball hat.
Yeah.
So she
But
saw, like,
she
spot
saw the princess was with Clayface, and Clayface went to go be the professor,
Yeah.
who then basically confirmed that Cersei was right and the princess needed to be assassinated.
Wait a minute. Yeah, I'm kinda putting that together now.
So I'm like, what was the princess's plan? Like, I feel bad that I keep saying a princess because I don't know what her name was, but
And I think
what,
she was replaced by the girl who played Ratcatcher, in Suicide Squad.
oh, yeah, I think you're right.
That's what I kept hearing anyway.
But yeah, that was where I was confused because I'm like, okay, she's with Clayface, but
Clayf
Clayface was the one that went to basically confirm that Cersei was right. So they would have. So then Amanda Waller was like, we have to go kill the princess. So I'm like, why would the princess work with Clayface? Like, did Clayface turn on her?
I'd have to go back and look, but yeah, that does
That
kinda
that was that was what I took away from
Mhm.
that explanation, and I'm like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. Like, why would the princess do that? Like that, it just didn't make any sense to me.
Why would Clayface impersonate the woman who's confirming that she needs to be killed?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So that was there might have been something in there I missed, and I never saw. I did. Did they show the bride seeing her with Clayface? Did I miss that?
It was just in, like, the surveillance picture that they saw
Was it
her.
earlier in that episode, or was it? Did you not? Did we not know it as audience members until the bride told the princess that at the end?
They showed surveillance video of the princess with a monster, but we couldn't
Okay.
tell Clayface because it was all blurry. But I
Okay.
guess the princess knew, or the bride knew that it was Clayface.
They just didn't show. They just fuzzed it out for us.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know. Her whole explanation there at the end, which was like the very end of the episode where it's like the big twist that the bride knows the truth, um, felt kind of rushed and jumbled to me. Like, let's piece this together and throw this together right here at the end and make it like a twist ending to kind of confuse people. So if I was gonna fully understand that, I'd probably have to go back and like watch it and have it slow it down and have it, explain to me a little bit.
Yeah, and there could be a thing to it that they the bride took that into those actions into her own hands. So it could also just be an explanation that she was telling herself so she could say, I'm going to assassinate you because I'm avenging Nina. So there might not be anything to it. And they could technically, now granted, they ended the whole season with basically Amanda Waller and them saying, good job, and gave her a team. So maybe I'm wrong now as I'm saying it. But I'm
Or
like, maybe there was just no justification. But like I said, that didn't work for me at
yeah.
the end. So that the ultimate like ending was kind of, I always assumed that Princess was bad. They made her way too attractive to not be bad, but it was just one of those things that was just, it just didn't work, and it kind of, like I said, wrapped up the show for me all of a sudden very quickly. And then they were like, "All right, here's your team, head for next season," and I was just like, "All right, I guess it's over."
Now the bride is the leader of the Creature Commandos and added a couple new members, and GI Robot is back, and
Yeah,
let's throw in King Shark because the audience knows him and a couple other people.
it
Uh,
didn't sound like Stallone.
no, they're not. He's done. They're not going to use him. Uh, no, that was one thing I was going to say. As much as I liked the show, the last episode I didn't really love. I
Mhm.
th- I think it was kind of rushed. Nina's backstory didn't do it for me.
Well, and
Um,
Nina's backstory didn't even like give any reason as to why she would be on that team.
Yeah, it didn't amount to anything. Her backstory and her whole thing kinda felt like a miss, like a
Mhm.
waste,
Yeah,
and she was just there to be like I kinda think James Gunn was like, "I'm gonna put a character on this team that everybody likes and is good, and then I'm gonna kill her.
yeah,
I'm gonna, like, upset people."
yeah,
And so her purpose to me was, like, minimal.
yeah.
Uh, I don't know. I like The Bride, I like Doctor Phosphorus, Weasel's backstory, I said probably was one of the best to me, G.I. Robot, all of them, I liked all that, Frankenstein here and there. Is there kinda like comic relief, David Harbour, Chuckle Hut shit, but, I mean, the finale fell a little flat, I will admit it.
No, I agree. I like I said, overall I enjoyed the structure of the show. I like that each one was the building. You get to learn about those characters mixed with a cohesive just like story that went from one to the next. It wasn't monsters of the week. We had one story that we told throughout this whole course of the season while also getting to know these characters. So, definitely a win in structure. It's just like I said, the end just kind of like you said, going in with Nina being your final was kind of weak, and then I can agree with, like I said, and then for me, the whole ending just fell apart because it didn't fully make sense in that. Now, I'm not necessarily sure, and you're a lot better at some of these things than me, but were there any Easter eggs or cameos outside of like the Batman, the Rupert Thorne, some of those, traditional things that came up? Is there any other like Easter eggs that stood out to you? Um,
Nothing crazy stood out, like you just said, Batman and Rupert Thorne were big,
Mhm.
Gotham being featured during Mr. Or Dr. Phosphorus's stuff. Um, and then just like, yeah, at the end of the new team, like King Shark, and I'm sure you could look harder at a couple of the other characters they showed, like probably people DC that you would know,
Right,
uh,
right.
could know. But yeah, not a ton more in
Okay.
the as far as Easter eggs, like you did say, they did show Star City one time, so we all know that's where Flash operates out of, and
Mhm.
some obviously Batman. I don't know if they ever got to Metropolis, maybe they did, but just kind of like tying in stuff here and there that you know from DC. Um, yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
just curious. I like I said, I'm horrible at catching Easter eggs or catching stuff, especially within DC, and we're so deep into DC with this like franchise. Like so much of it's just lost on me. But curious if you saw anything.
Clayface was interesting to me. I liked because obviously he's a character you know, and they haven't used much in at maybe at all in DC. Like since the Snyder stuff, like we haven't seen Clayface. So him being in this is cool. And they announced, or it's been announced that they're doing a Clayface project, like a movie that Mike Flanagan is going to be
Hmm.
helming.
Yeah,
You and I are kind of both fans of, like, horror
yeah.
and that guy. So then I'm sitting here wondering, like, so, okay, are they gonna start after Creature Commandos? Like, is the Clayface project gonna be like, are they gonna acknowledge that we've seen Clayface and he exploded or
I
whatever?
know. I was gonna
Or is
say,
it
is he
just
dead?
We're gonna act like this didn't happen. Uh, and then it also starts making you wonder, like, are you gonna see any of these characters ever live action? You know, they made the Dr. Phosphorus guy look like Alan Tudyk a little bit, if that's
Mhm.
even how you say his last name. So it's like if they do a live action Dr. Phosphorus, is it gonna be him? Or like, are we ever gonna see the bride in anything live action? Like, if they really want this to be the same world, we've already seen Weasel in Suicide Squad. You know, we've seen him live action and animated. So what's the chances of it?
I think chances are good.
Yeah.
Whether or not they're played by the same, but I mean, I can imagine a Frankenstein somewhere played by
Yeah.
David Harbour. I can imagine you definitely Mr. Prosperous by Alan Tudyk. I can see that. So yeah, I wouldn't rule any of it out. I don't know if they have active plans for any of these characters to exist. I could easily imagine like a GI robot cameo in the background sitting in someone's laboratory, in some random future Superman movie or something, and your Lex Luthor has GI robots
Right.
up on the wall in his, live museum or something. Like I definitely wouldn't be surprised for any of them to show up in some form in live action. I mean, like I said, we're seeing that across the board. Star Wars is doing that a lot. We're bringing a lot of their animated characters to life, so I wouldn't be surprised.
It's
And
interesting to
I'd
think.
be here for it. Like I said, we've already seen Weasel. Um, the Bride would be interesting. It just depends on if they're gonna use the monster side of DC in any mainstream projects, or if
They
this
want to.
just lives on Max in its own little side.
Swamp Thing is on the list of things coming. A lot of these characters
Sure.
from this show could exist in a Swamp Thing film or something.
Any of these characters, really, if we're going to see any of them, and we should see at least, I would put money on the fact that at least one of these characters shows up live action in Peacemaker season 2.
Sure.
I mean, it'd be weird if they don't.
Mm.
Like if I was James Gunn, I would want to at least bring one of these characters to life in that show.
I'll
When
be.
it was made very clear
Mm.
when Peacemaker characters were animated for this show that they would live action some characters from the show for that one.
Even Peacemaker was in this show when she was having like when Waller was having the vision of all the dead heroes. He was like one of them laying there.
Oh, really? I missed it. See, I'm terrible catching Easter eggs.
Oh, yeah.
Do you look like John Cena?
Probably, I'm sure. And I think Batman was in there and Wonder Woman. They showed a couple different characters, like Superman. They had him hanging from like a stick, and it had like the
I do remember that one.
David Corn set logo, like the
Yeah,
new logo. So yeah, I'm guessing they are gonna do what they can to, if it makes sense, to tie in, bring some of these animated characters to life if they can, if it makes sense.
yeah. So I could see any of these. I'd be surprised if at least one isn't seen somewhere in Peacemaker season 2. I'd be surprised.
Well, that'd be cool.
That'd be cool. But yeah, I'm here for season 2. They walk this back, and whatever they do, I'm curious to see. Like I said, this one ended. I could give or take, a season 2 ultimately. With how it ended, I'm like, all right, well now we just kind of moved on, and the story just wrapped in its own weird way. Do I want to see a bride led team? What does that look like? But
Right.
better chances of me doing it than not. So I enjoyed Creature Commandos a lot more for someone who was going into it with zero expectation and zero really. I wasn't going to watch this at all, and then
Yeah.
just happened to just put it on when I needed something to watch, and was just like, whatever. Let me just check this out. I was putting on the Watchmen Chapter One animated movie on Max, and they showed a trailer for this ahead of time, and we're just like, and I was like, hey, that's shorter. Let me put that on. Let me put on a 20-minute episode instead of an hour and a half movie. And here we are.
Yeah, we're kind of in agreement. I found it enjoyable enough. I think the thing that excuse me, taught me the most was, and I even kind of told you, is like, I need to ease up on James Gunn a little bit. I keep having my doubts and like being like, he's gonna make a shitty Superman movie. I don't like what he does, but I do at the core of me. He just has a touch for these kind of edgy superhero things, and can he turn the edgy off for Superman? That's all I hope he can do, is just turn off the edgy for Superman, but still keep your same sensibility of how you make superhero stuff, it'll be fine. Like all the Guardians movies are good. Suicide Squad is pretty good. Peacemaker was really good. This show was pretty good. Like, why do I always why every time I'm like, James Gunn, I don't know about him. Like, he'll be fine. He'll do fine. He was a fine choice to run this. He knows what he's doing. He's not just gonna like let you down and make something like that was the worst thing I've ever seen. Like he has improved that. So why do I keep thinking that he's gonna do that?
I don't
Uh
know. I agree with you. I have no idea why I do have a hate boner for him.
right. So I think I just need to ease up on him a little bit and just kind of let like Dwayne Johnson says, enjoy the ride I'm gonna take you on. Like just let him take you on the ride.
Well,
Well,
at
yeah.
least James Gunn will take us on a ride.
Right, and not just be lying through his teeth.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it kinda just showed me that he just keeps making things that I enjoy. So, just enjoy it, and this show was good. It had its flaws. It had, like, didn't end the best way to me, but it was good enough that I'm here for a season 2 and enjoyed myself. So, that's
Yeah.
fine
And
with
any
me.
of these characters pop up on something else, I'm gonna be excited to see them. And that's the thing that James Gunn does great is he does know how to make characters. And he does know how to make you care about characters that you never thought you would actually care about.
Mhm.
And he does a great job with that. So if he can do even a portion of that within that Superman movie, which it looks like he can with that trailer, and everyone's going to be in love with Crypto the dog. Everyone already is, and you didn't even see that. You just saw the dog, and when they said Crypto was going to be in this movie, I rolled my eyes. And then as soon as you see him, you're like, "This works." So yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
James Gunn, take your flowers, and I'm excited for what you're doing. I'm gonna stop bitching.
yeah. We're gonna try it. It's
Wait and
hard.
see. Wait and see. We'll see. Next trailer come out and be like, "What the fuck's James Gunn doing?" Uh, but yes, that's Creature Commandos. So, what did you guys think about Creature Commandos season 1? Are you excited for chapter 2, season 2? Do you understand how the bride got to her conclusion and if it made any sense? Because that's really their conclusion at the end of this season made more sense, I might be able to be like, "Holy shit, that show was awesome." But I struggle because the last thing kind of just fell apart in the home stretch for me. But let us know, and you know how. Hit us up on social media, shoot us an email, raisethegeek@gmail.com. Or, yep, those are the ways. Those are the ways you can reach us. So use them, communicate with us, join the conversation as we're here. We'll be back next week talking about something.
We'll
We're,
figure it out.
we're still rolling the dice on what it's going to be, but stay tuned to social media so you can be prepared for the conversation. So I think you have any final thoughts, Don?
Nope, we covered it all pretty well, my
All
friend.
right. Well, let's get to this Eagles game, Eagles Green Bay game, and see if Green Bay is going to get trounced, because I think it's just kicking off here. Yeah, it's a couple minutes in already, so
Oh,
let's
anybody but Packers. Sorry, Green Bay.
anybody but Packers. Yes, yes. I think that's going to be a safe bet, Don. But I think that's going to do it for us this week. So for Raise the Geek, I'm Chris,
And I'm done.
and thanks for checking out the show.
Geek is all we speak.